I decided to spend the next few days quietly. No jobs. No running around with Hiromi, although she was at school for the next few days anyways. I was still sort of coming to terms with my own ability in murder, and I thought some time away from missions where I had a gun in my hand was needed to sort myself out. The plan was simple. Stay out of trouble and pretend to recover from the gig, so I would mostly stay out of sight of anyone that knows me. Lots of things kept me occupied though. Crafting for one. The gig I had just accomplished. Everything in between. Plus it didn't help that I had a lot of time on my hands as I drove back out into the desert. Part of the desire was pure XP grind. Being able to really gun the engine on my Quadra Type 66 was amazing. Leaving me giggling at points as I caught some air, or came around a corner of a dune a little too fast and drifting a little. Little XP alerts came in, but it wasn't a lot. I wasn't doing anything truly crazy. But I was on my way to get something I had left behind. I soon came up to the location, slowing down as I came up to the wreck of Scorpion's ride. Or at least pieces of it. The older Caldos must have already come by from the look of it. The car itself was gone, but I could see bits and pieces of metal left behind. Plus the GPS told me this was it. I came to a stop and started searching. The desert didn't like giving back what it had taken, and after a long hour searching that area of the desert I finally found it. Like hell I was going to leave behind my HMG. I love that thing. I shot it out of a moving car. It's like I was in an action movie. Its barrel was all I could see as I was sticking out of the desert, and as I slowly dug it out I winced. Poor girl. I could instantly tell how bad of a condition it was in. You see, I had a very special alert from the night before. With a grin I once again looked at my menu. Crafting skill level up. I managed to get crafting 1 from sewing that last night, although I had stabbed my finger more times than I really wanted to admit. I remember thinking that breach was the most information-dense of any of the skills I had taken so far. I was wrong. Crafting made breach seem like elementary school math compared to calculus. It was so dense, with little bits of knowledge in how to craft tons of things. Explosives, weapons, clothes, armor, vehicles, everything. Plus tool knowledge for tons of pieces of equipment, and the instincts on everything from making something to unmaking it. I could also feel a big blackness in the knowledge, like it was reaching for knowledge that wasn't there at points. Knowledge I already knew would be engineering. Two sides of the same side. Crafting was doing it by hand. Engineering was closer to design work, or maybe understanding more complicated crafting. I guess I would find out when I unlocked it. Even without the knowledge though, I could feel the sort of impact it will have on my understanding of tech. It was kinda exciting. I realized quickly last night that sewing wasn't going to give me much experience, even if it was really useful. I still needed to figure out a way of making patches for my leotard. I might need to buy a new one, or just buy a netrunner suit to cannibalize. Still, I had a feeling I would know a good way to do it once I explored crafting a bit more. But between crafting and gun nut, I had a solid understanding as I pulled my HMG free of the desert. I knew she was dead. When she had been thrown from the car, she had hit something solid, a rock probably. There was a good chunk of her receiver smashed in. Her barrel didn't look too bad, visually, but gun nut told me it wasn't straight anymore. The pieces that let the barrel slide back after firing and be pushed forward with a spring were wrecked. I sighed as I held her up. Coming all this way only to find out she had died. It was sad. Not a waste, but just sad. She had really done work against the wraiths, and we would have chewed them up if not for the car crashing. I hefted her up and felt the sand pour out of her. I had come all this way. It would be wrong to just leave her though. I nodded. I wouldn't just leave her. I'll fix you someday. Who knows? Maybe I'll even be able to give you a nice upgrade. I told the gun as I shook her out a bit. Bitches do love cannons after all. I muttered, giggling a little at myself as I carried her back to the car. She would sit in my passenger seat while I drove home. Well, not quite home. I had learned more than just how to craft from my level up. In fact, I learned what was probably the most important part of crafting. Deconstruction. I now knew how to take something apart to get at the useful bits. Which gave me an idea. Especially since I now had wheels. In the morning I had gone down to the market to the same repair lady that had once basically called me an idiot for not knowing about the map function in my eyes. She was kinda a bitch, but she was close by. Tools? She asked, looking up from. Oh, I recognized it now. It was an internet port for home use. Hook your TV or other devices into it to watch TV or get local web. Yeah. I'm looking to get into scrapping, repair, and maybe some tinkering. Best place to get tools for it? I asked, earning an odd look from the lady. Thankfully, I guess getting my hair cut and colored made me look different enough. She was willing to talk. I'll give you a kit, sure, 1,000 eddies. She offered brazenly as if it was just a thing. That's robbery for a tool kit. But I'll tell you what. I'll pay 1,000 if it's a complete kit. If everything I'll need is inside it. If it isn't, well, I know where you work, I said, trying to put on my coolest stare. Don't go trying to threaten me, kid. Market security will be more than happy to have you thrown out. Something about the way I spoke seemed to work, as the woman sounded a little spooked despite her tough words to the contrary. But after a moment she nodded. But yeah. I'll make sure it's a complete kit. 1,000 eddies. A minute later I watched as she started putting a variety of tools from kits that she was selling into a single box. Although a few of the electronics she placed inside looked like personal equipment, something she looked at shrugged and threw it in. I really couldn't tell now if she was scamming me. But, well, better to just get what I need and lose some eddies than have to spend a few days going to different stores trying to find the basics. Besides, if I found out later she scammed me, I did know where she worked. Here. This is everything someone doing some scraping, salvage, or repair needs. I'm not here to teach you, so if you don't know what something does, that's on you. She offered, handing me the toolbox. Thank you, I agreed. My eyes going blue as I transferred the funds. $1,000 seems like a lot, but tools are always expensive. I had hurried home, and after opening the box and poking around, it took me a while to check over everything, but my Crafting 1 knowledge dump did give me an idea of how almost everything works. Some of the stuff was esoteric. With that done and a firm understanding of what tools and things I had, I was actually pretty sure the lady hadn't screwed me over. Overcharged me? Sure. But she had put in just about everything I would need. With that I went into my room and put on some older clothes, things I wouldn't mind ruined. I found an old pair of gloves that I think once belonged to June, and an older pair of boots. The glitzy ugly things I had no problem with ruining. Then I took my toolbox out to my new car. I had headed out to scrounge over the battle site. Not much had been left, and I was lucky to find my HMG still left over, but not my SMG. That was a pain. So instead of wasting more time, I settled my HMG in the seat, walked around to the driver's side, patted my car's hood, and started up her engine with a roar. Let's go to the dump. Dash. Oh God, it stinks. I whined as I climbed another pile of trash looking for electronics, or anything else I could take apart. Seriously, why did I come here? Who was the idiot that said I should come to the dump? I'll kill them. No, wait, Motoko murder was still wrong against anyone not a scav, or a wraith, or a bad guy in general. Was telling someone go to the dump an evil act? As I almost slipped and felt my foot fall into something wet and gooey, I decided yes. Yes, it was. Too bad the evil person was me. I did this to myself. Puking a little in my mouth, I continued to work. If nothing else, there was a lot of stuff here to scavenge. I had already found a ton of stuff to work with. I didn't have any grand plans. Honestly, I was mostly looking for stuff I would definitely be able to fix, or at least take apart for parts to fix something else. Grinding my crafting skill was less about making something useful right now, and more about making something at all. Really, my big goal was just not to spend any money on this. Well, any more money. Eventually I could even make grenades and such. I did have a bunch of them from that wraith guy I killed. Crazy bastard was practically covered in them. I had klept them all, and there were even some parts to make more. I just wasn't going to try until I was sure I wasn't going to blow my face off. But until then I was looking for good scrap. And trying not to puke. I grunted as I slowly came back down the side of the trash pile with an old laptop in my arms. It had a bullet hole, sure, but I could get a ton of stuff out of it. Which is when I looked to my left and stopped. No, it couldn't be. I looked around and I realized this area did look familiar. I dropped the broken laptop, focusing instead on what I was looking at. A fridge. A very familiar fridge. I walked over and with a hesitant hand I lifted the lid. Immediately I closed it, ran a few feet away and lost my lunch. Oh God, that smell. Yep. That was a decaying Rahabat moss. As I heaved out my guts, my brain was processing what I had just found. V had found him in 2077. But it was still 2075. Had no one found him in 2 years? Really? I finished clearing my mouth and hurried back. This time I opened the fridge without breathing. I reached in and grabbed his net deck. Quickly took a picture of the inside of the fridge, and slammed it shut. Then I ran away, gasping a dozen feet away as I tried to breathe without smelling rotting corpse. The net deck still smelled too though. I shivered, hurried back to the car. I was gonna stuff this in the trunk and not open it again until I had a plastic bag or something to seal it in. Fuck. I had found Rahabat moss. So I now had a plastic bag with Rahabat moss's net deck sealed inside, hidden in my room. That was gonna be something I deal with later. No way I had the ability to check the insides without having my brain melted. And honestly, I didn't trust Nix. In the game you take it to the afterlife where a netrunner called Nix hacks into it. He nearly gets brain fried but you rescue him. Afterwards he tells V there wasn't really anything interesting inside, gives you some special quick hacks and sends V away right after. Rahabat moss basically created netrunning. He was the greatest. Period. I always got suspicious in the game dealing with Nix. He always treated V like an amateur even after saving his life. So I was going to skip that entire thing. I'll grind up my skills and crack the net deck myself someday. Until then? Well, I thought about talking to Wakako about the fridge, but it will keep. Literally. If no one would have found it in 2 years, I think it's safe where it is. Especially since I already took the valuable bit. So I pulled out my haul from the dump and grabbed my toolbox. Time to get to work. First my HMG was settled onto the living room table to get a good cleaning and going over. Once it was at least clean, I set her in my room for now. Then, considering that leveling technical attribute was just as slow as intelligence, I decided to combine them. While I was slowly taking apart the old electronics and other toys I had found, I was also listening to my mother's netrunning guide, and hacking the radio. 100 technical attribute XP gained. While grinding, hacking was kinda boring in a way since for the most part it was just going through code as you tried to slip through the security. Grinding crafting was more interesting. Like, sure, it was slow, but you were getting more than just the XP. Every time I took apart something I was getting equipment for more stuff in the future. I was finding neat little surprises inside expensive pieces of equipment that still worked despite the ruined exterior. So it kept my interest a lot longer. Although even so I did get bored eventually. Stretching, I decided to stretch my legs and grab a meal. Besides, it had been a few days of playing around with tech. I hadn't really talked to anyone since I got back from the Badlands. So I started sending off everyone I knew a text. Hey Hiromi, still in school? Is it at least interesting? Ichi, how's work? Are you still stuck at the club for extra protection? Dr. Vic. It's Motoko, haven't had a chance to talk to you since we met up. I hope the Chrome has been useful. I've actually been looking for some stuff. I was wondering if you could help. I need to update my optics. I'm thinking Kiroshi. Let me know if you have any deets on where I could get a set. Thanks, Vic. With that, I felt at least that I wasn't hiding away from the world entirely. Even if I did, things kept changing. The Clawstrom gang war had been expanding. Mostly I've been kept up to date on the news, which I would let play while I was taking stuff apart. The war had spread. It was becoming a full-out gang war. Because when you are shooting people on the streets, sometimes you get some collateral. Right now the Valentinos were shooting both sides whenever they came into their territory. Turns out someone well-loved in the Tinos had been killed in the crossfire between Strom and Claws. Tinos were pissed. 6th Street were also shooting on sight, but purely to keep Claws, or Strom, from moving into their territory. This of course meant the Moxes were started to buckle down as well. The Claws getting hit hard, which made them hyper-aggressive. Mox girls and boys were paying for it. So they were arming up as well. The entire north side of the city was turning into a war zone. Damn. I was firmly staying out of it. Other than June, I had no connection to the entire trouble. Which reminded me. I sent out one more text message. June, please still be alive. I hadn't heard from June in a while. Once again, he was not responding to texts or calls. So with that done, I headed outside. I was just buying my routine mystery meat skewer when I got a text in return. Hiromi, I'm free bitch. We going partying? Sorry Hiromi. I'm not really up to a party tonight. Glad you are free though. Hiromi, you are the boringest crazy person I have ever met. Hey, I'm not crazy. Hiromi, Scavden. Solo. Which I did, fully trusting that I could do it and survive. Mostly. Hiromi, hence the crazy. Any news about June? Nothing. I sighed as I walked around the block, mostly just to do something other than stand around as I got some fresh air. Hiromi, I'll ask around some of the claws I know. I know the war is getting pretty bad, so he's probably just busy. I hope he's just busy. I really do. Hiromi, alright, enough about bad stuff. What have you been doing? I talked to Ichi and he has been jobless since his glorious Shogo summer is keeping everyone close to the club. So I know you haven't done any jobs with Ichi. No more scavdens, right? I didn't know how to respond. Technically I hadn't hit a scavden. Technically. Hiromi, right? Not a scavden. I did some work for Wakako involving a nomad. It kinda blew up. Hiromi, what the fuck Motoko? I'm coming over. Okay, I'm just walking the block. I laughed a little. It was nice to talk to Hiromi even if she was very... Hiromi. She was my best chum after all. I ended up getting back to the apartment and camping out, waiting at the entrance for Hiromi to show up. The roar of her kusanagi was something I could hear long before I saw her, and I was groaning because I could tell she was speeding like crazy. Hiromi. Slow down, you gonk. I grumbled as I waited for her to come around the corner, nearly drive into a lamppost, miss it by a bit and skid up onto the sidewalk in front of the apartment. Motoko. Hello Hiromi. Do we need to talk about speed laws? I asked, but she ignored me as she jumped off her bike and started looking me over. Her hands poking and prodding. I'm fine. I told her, earning a glare from Hiromi. You did something stupid again. It was a gig. An official gig. It went bad when the Raf and Shiv showed up. But it turned out alright. I told her with a shrug. Well, except my new baby got destroyed. They got pissed when I was firing the HMG out the side of the car and we ended up flipping. My HMG died Hiromi. I'm sad. I whined a bit at her. What the fuck Motoko? You. That's fucking Nova. You fired that big ass thing out the side of a car? A moving car? She asked, suddenly perking up as I gave her a tidbit about the story. Oh, it was way more Nova than that. They were behind us, so I opened the passenger door, rested the gun against the door and was firing backwards halfway out the car. That is the preemist shit I ever heard. You crazy girl. She pulled me into a massive hug, squeezing as hard as she could. I'm gonna have to stick to you from now on, cause you are gonna get flatlined doing such preem shit. It wasn't that bad. Come on, let's park your bike in the garage. I want to show you something. I grinned as I urged her back to the bike and hopped on, patting the seat in front of me so Hiromi would get on. She did, looking like she wanted to keep hugging me or lock me away in a dungeon so I could stop doing preem shit and get killed. When we pulled into the garage, Hiromi parking right next to my car, which was in June's spot. Hiromi was actually grumbling about it as she parked next to his spot. Who's in June's spot? She grumbled to me, and it was only by pulling her back that I stopped her from kicking my car as she got off her bike. I am. I told her once I pulled her back as I walked up and opened the driver's door. Want to go for a drive? I teased her as I slipped inside. Bullshit. This is a Wraith car, it even has their markings on it. Yeah, I need to get it repainted. The previous owner won't mind. I hinted as I cocked my head to the passenger door. Wait, you're being serious? She asked, suddenly looking from me to the car. Which is when I started it up. It roared to life. Hiromi happily jumped into the passenger seat a moment later, looking around as I closed my door and pulled out. Of course, unlike Hiromi, I wasn't crazy. I followed all the traffic laws. Why are you the most boring crazy person ever? Hiromi whined at me as I pulled out onto the street going a normal speed as I started driving around. Mostly just enjoying driving my new car with my best chum riding with me. We should stop by the club. Ichi will lose it when he sees your new ride. Really? Why? He already has a car. Oh my god, Motoko. You are such a gonk. This is a Quadra-Type 66. It's a preem ride. Well, I mean not this one exactly. The Wraiths did a hack job on it, but it still is a monster. What's the top speed on this thing? Don't know. I muttered, although I was shifting a little as I lied. I didn't know the exact top speed, but there was nothing but open roads on the drive into the city. Ooh, did my cautious driver Motoko drive fast? Only out in the Badlands. How fast did you get? No, don't give me that flat look, tell me. Fine. I hit about 180 before I let off the gas and coasted back. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. This thing can go. Come on, hit it. Hell no, Hiromi, I'm on a road with traffic. Fuck 'em. Not a chance, chum. Uck, boring. But we can stop by the Ho Club and show off to Ichi. Yes, Hiromi said, breaking into giggles as I maneuvered to hit the freeway connecting Little Chinatown and Kabuki. I smiled as I got a little alert for driving XP. I was smiling as we stopped out on the road to the Ho Club. They had actually blocked off the little alley entrance which led to the club. Instantly as well I could see Tiger Claws looking alert and concerned. Wraiths weren't often seen in the city. But it's not like anyone living in the city wouldn't have heard of them. Thankfully, as usual, Hiromi took care of that, popping out of the car and waving around and acting like all the Tiger Claws knew who she was. Hey, where is Ichi? He has to see this. She called out, practically dancing towards the entrance to the club. I stepped out and settled against the car. Ichi would be out soon, and I didn't want to leave my new car alone in the middle of a Tiger Claw club. I got some odd looks from a few of the people hovering around. Obviously they were guards. Looks like the club really had pulled in more people to guard it. Shoba either was paying the Claws to do it, or his club was more important than I expected since there was a gang war going on. I was distracted from waiting when I got a text. Vic, hey kid. Sorry it took so long. I decided to check in on your request. Took a bit, but I found what you were looking for. Come on by. But I need to say this. The chrome you dropped off has been going to a good use. I have to admit I kept expecting some kind of trick in the days after, like you would show up to try and force me to pay more or set me up against a gang, but I was wrong. Listen kid. You did a solid good deed. I'll send some pictures just so your good deed doesn't just disappear into the wind. I blinked in surprise at the heartfelt message. Then I started getting pictures. Little kids with new chrome. Chrome I recognized. Little kids that looked poor, but now had legs. Where in the picture before they had none? A boy who was showing off his arm to his mum. His obviously full prosthetic arm. And they kept coming. I had been right. When it came down to it, Vic was the sort of guy that did real honest good, in a city that had almost no one doing that. Damn. I wasn't crying. You're crying. See Ichi. Look at Motoko's new ride. I told you it was preem, SH Motoko? Wha? Oh. Geez Hiromi, you startled me. I snorted, trying to keep my nose from running. Why are you crying? Was someone mean? What happened? June? She asked quietly as she hurried up close to me. No. I waved my hands as I wiped my eyes. Stupid sudden rain showers getting my eyes wet. How rude. I just got a message from Vic. It's good news. Who? Hiromi asked, and it took Ichi a minute to remember. Wait, that weird Ripper? He isn't that weird. I grumbled at them, my eyes turned yellow as I forwarded the pictures to both of them, bombarding them with tons of pics. Hiromi went silent for a bit as she looked through them. Ichi just seemed to glance over them confused. Okay? Those are the people that we helped by handing over the chrome we didn't need. I informed him, but he just seemed to shrug. It was your chrome. I still would have preferred selling it. Huh? I didn't expect this, Hiromi said after a bit, looking me over as if she had never seen me before. I honestly never took you for someone that would do something like that. Or get tearful about it. You've changed so much, Motoko. Sometimes I forget, then moments like this happen. She snorted a bit before waving it off. So Ichi, what do you think of Motoko's wheels? Preem. I'm jealous. I'd ask where you got the money for it, but considering I don't think you paid for it. Not an any, I offered with a smile. He snorted. You hit a Wraith driver? He hit me first, I hit him last, I said a little darkly before shrugging a bit. It's a long story. I was on a job for Wakako. I was an extra to cover my client's back. Things got a little out of control. She fired that HMG she found out the car while running away from Wraiths. Hiromi added. She's been quiet about the rest though. She is terrible at telling stories. Really? That's Nova. Ichi offered, blinking as his eyes went a little distant, imagining. I've been stuck here. You really got a job from Wakako? The Wakako? Yeah. It wasn't that hard. I walked in and asked if she had any work that needed doing. Then I had to break into a Tino chop shop and steal an info shard. It got a little out of control. No, I kept control, just complicated. I can't say much, but let's just say another fixer was involved. Ouch. Hiromi winced at that, probably imagining way worse than it was. It was okay. I got in and out without any trouble and Wakako was impressed. Damn, Ichi whispered, his voice sounding a little rough as he seemed to shake it off. So you're gonna let me drive this thing, right? Ha ha ha. No. I deadpanned, which he tisked at. Damn. I mean, you are a better driver than Hiromi. Hey. Nah. Hiromi is better than me, you just have to get her drunk first, Ichi said, and it took me a second before I realized he was actually being serious. Being drunk doesn't make you a better driver. After we hung out with Ichi for a while, we split up. Ichi was still on the clock in a way, and Hiromi and I now had an appointment. No way am I letting some back alley ripper work on you and not be there to keep an eye out. Hiromi argued as she refused to let me drop her off back home once I told her what Vic had told me through text. Vic isn't like that. He's good people. And a good ripper. I'll be fine. You aren't going without me. Besides, we are almost there, so stop arguing. Gonk. She pointed out as I sighed and nodded, simply driving quietly through the city towards Misty's Esoterica. We pulled up out front and Hiromi and I headed in. Before we slipped through the back gate though, I wandered into Misty's shop. Hi Misty. Oh Motoko. And Hiromi? She hesitated as she tried to remember Hiromi's name. Yeah, you got it. Hiromi confirmed, although she was still not being friendly. Hey Misty, I'm going down to see Vic, but can you keep an eye on my car? It has a bunch of gang ink? She asked with a kinda stilted smile. Yeah. So can you make sure no one damages it? I really need to find someone to repaint it. Or do it myself. Misty looked a little conflicted, before she nodded. I'll try to warn anyone away. Might be a good idea to get it painted though. You're not a wraith. Are you? No way, almost shouted, waving my hands a bit. I was on a job working for a nomad, and we got jumped by the wraiths. Its previous owner doesn't need it anymore. Misty nodded, releasing a sigh of relief. I'm glad. You kinda scared me for a minute. She smiled at me as she waved me towards the back. Go on. I'll make sure everyone knows you collect it from a wraith if they come around. Thanks Misty, you're preem. Hiromi followed me as I practically hopped along. Finally going to get a good set of eyes. I was gonna be able to see through walls. And my hacking would be so much easier. My current set of some no-name company eyes or whatever were okay. For civilians. They had the basic stuff, and even let me do the calling thing without needing a phone. June must have splurged to make sure I could do that. My guess was that my old ones before the scavs had the same functionality and June wanted to make sure I could still do it. Anyways, Kiroshi were the top of the line optics. There simply wasn't much better than a set. Scanning mode. Near instant netcode connection. Hookup for smart weapons. Color options. My current eyes couldn't change the eye color. They were the color June must have chosen for me when he bought them. A sort of blue. Maybe it was my natural eye color? Or maybe June thought I would like the color? Anyways, I couldn't actually change the color of this set. I would have to go to a ripper and have them take them out to change the color. They were cheap optics. Like the bargain bin phone at a phone store. Sure, it might be a smartphone, but it had none of the options a real smartphone would have. I hurried down the steps to the clinic, kind of excited. Sure, having my cyberdeck installed had been awesome as well, but it was like it barely made any impact. I just had a little port hidden on the back of my head now. This was new eyeballs. Not just new ones, but some of the best I could get. A real serious upgrade. My first step on a path that I was going to have to come to accept. Transhumanism. It made me want to ask a question that many Motoko before me had asked. I had a ghost, right? No matter how much of myself I carved away, my soul would still be there. A human had a ghost, a sentience, that couldn't be removed by simply stripping the body away piece by piece. It was the very essence of what made Motoko special. Well, special-ish. She wasn't alone in being a nearly complete cyborg. It was her talent that pushed her to be amazing. But it was her ghost. The question if she had won, if she was really the same Motoko as she had been born as, that made her compelling. Motoko? Hiromi asked. I had stopped before I entered the bottom of the steps. I had gotten lost. Did I have a ghost? I shook my head. This wasn't even the Ghost in the Shell universe. So in the end, who knows? Nothing. Come on, Hiromi. I take the last step down the stairs. Vic? Are you in? Oh, Motoko. I was wondering when I would see you. His security door opened and I walked in smiling as he gave me a nod of his head. Come take a look. The small thermos-like object held a set of eyes. Not that I could see it as it was sealed until they were installed. Kiroshi Optics. MK1, so don't fall totally in love. I'm not a miracle worker, he chuckled. As I looked the thermos over. No way. This is a miracle for sure. Thank you, Vic. I honestly wasn't expecting you to have them so soon. Well, I owed you one. He offered simply before pointing me at the chair. So ready to get chipped. I took a deep breath and released it. Yeah, I am. I slowly came to as I blinked my eyes. You might feel a little discomfort at first. Blurred vision, low contrast, glitches. Alerts were popping up in my mind as my eyes were connected, but I didn't really have any issues as Vic finally pulled back. I slowly looked around. Everything was so clear. Well, how's it look? Feel alright to you? Vic asked as he seemed to look me over. Feels alright. No pain or anything. I answered, sounding a little distant. I was distracted. Imagine living your life seeing in 720p, and suddenly you are in 4K. Everything. I could see everything. Darkness barely stopped me. I could see the dust in the corner from across the room. You doing okay, Motoko? Hiromi asked as she walked up. She was still looking a little skeeved out about the back alley ripper. Yeah. Sorry, I just can see everything now. It's kinda distracting. Yeah, your new eyes are on another level. I didn't know you were using a set of Arasaka Rainbow with a name like that. You expect a lot, but these were bad long before they ever came out. Hiromi mentioned as she looked me over. I blinked. My old eyes were Arasaka make? Huh? Yeah. I guess I hadn't really considered it. I mean, they were my eyes. Vic gave off a chuckle as he nodded, taking the pair of my old eyes to put into another thermos. Waste not, want not, I suppose. Weird. It was kinda weird to know that he was walking away with something I had considered a part of me. Then again, they weren't my organic eyes anyways. It still felt weird. So, what color are you gonna go with? I still think neon green would suit you. Hiromi offered as she came up close to check my new eyes out. I'm not copying your hair, Hiromi. I'm thinking a reddish purple color. Yeah, I have the exact color I want in mind, I said, smiling as I imagined the Major and her eye color. Man, I was getting pretty close to her in looks now. Just needed the fully Borg body. Well, alright. I'll admit. This guy isn't as much of a back alley ripper as I expected. He was competent, Hiromi whispered as she kept close. How did you even find this guy anyways? Vic is kinda a legend, Hiromi. I whispered back, although I was still kinda distracted because I could see Hiromi's pores crystal clear. Seriously, supervision was kinda distracting. Also, it was weird. Blinking felt weird. Hey Vic. It feels kinda weird when I blink. Yeah, that's normal. Kiroshi have a water protective layer on top of the eyes. On one hand, it means your tears won't lubricate your new eyes, makes them feel a little smooth when blinking. On the other hand, in serious situations you don't have to blink. He offered as he wheeled back over. Now let's make sure everything is as it should be. Go ahead and try the scanner. he asked as he seemed to settle in front of me. I blinked and my eyes just did it. A flick of a thought and my vision went red, and everything became so much more. I looked around, sweeping my eyes over Vic's clinic. Almost everything highlighted at first, but as I ignored pieces of his equipment I didn't need to know about, or Vic's TV on the desk it unhighlighted. It might take a few seconds to adjust, but first time is rarely the charm. He stopped whatever spiel he was about to say as he seemed to look at me and Hiromi, before shaking his head. Never mind. Scanners should eventually sync with your thought processes and read your intentions. As I looked around I caught sight of Hiromi, and instantly I realized I could send a quick hack at her. No messing around waiting for my eyes to get her net code. The scan was nearly instant. Man, I had forgotten how much easier quick hacking was in the game, but really it was just because of these eyes. A second glance and I had Hiromi's information ready and able to send a quick hack her way. What? She asked as I shook my head. Nothing, just amazed at how quickly it pulled up your information. Speaking of, I'm injecting an NCPD file search. He mentioned as my eyes suddenly showed an install bar as something updated. Run into any ne'er-do-wells, you'll know exactly what they ne'er did well, he said, almost laughing a bit at the end, an often used joke I think. Hiromi was fake gagging behind his head. Thanks. That will help me collect bounties. I muttered. The idea wasn't bad. I could get around the city and start taking out anyone with a price on their head. Vic was looking a little pale as I said that. Maybe, just use it to run away from the bad guys. Kids should know how to use a gun, sure, but best to avoid trouble. He offered, and I didn't argue despite the fact we both knew I wasn't going to do what he said. Thanks Vic. For everything. Now don't say it like that. You'll make me feel like that's a goodbye. Sides still need to cover a few things about your new MK1. You've already been introduced to your new scanner, but the MK1 also has a built-in external lens disruptor. In layman's terms, any surveillance cam will catch your face as a blur. Just remember, your body'll show up crystal clear. Really? I didn't know that. I muttered, was that a thing they did? I don't remember that ever being mentioned in the game. Then again, cameras were more alarm systems in the moment, rather than something that bites you a day after you got spotted. Cool. Hiromi offered, grinning a little widely. I got a few ideas for where that will come in handy. She practically purred as she looked like a cat that caught a canary. I instantly put my hand up. Not a chance. I'm not a thief, Hiromi. Unless I'm stealing for a fixer, I guess. Does looting count as stealing? I asked her, and I could hear Vic do an aborted chuckle beside me as he was checking some diagnostic on his screen. Course not. Clepping is only clepping if they are still alive. The moment they flatline, it's not clepping. Hiromi answered simply. Right, I chuckled at Hiromi's blunt explanation. Also here. Vic handed me a Mac stock, or at least something similar. Take 2 whiffs now, and another 2 in an hour, he urged me on until I took my whiff. Good. Don't forget. I won't. I leave and set an alarm. I assure him, doing just that with my new Kiroshis. Man, that was kinda cool. Preem, we done? Hiromi asked, sounding a little bored now that the fun stuff was over. Yep, I'm finished, unless you want something else chipped in, but I would say wait. No. That's what I wanted today. I'll get used to these before I start messing around. Excellent. Good call. Now last thing and probably the most important. I told Vic, getting an interested look. How much do I owe you? Dash. I can't believe you paid him full price. Hiromi grumbled at me as I walked. Course I did. Vic does good work. He owes you thousands of eddies from that scav loot. Hiromi reminded me as we passed through the alley towards my car. No, he got that for a low price, but that loot was for rep. You were the worst. Hiromi whined at me as we climbed into my Reaver. Giving Misty a wave as I did, which she returned. Looks like she had done a good job keeping the car unbothered. It's good business. Besides, I got Kiroshi optics. I reminded her as I set out. Driving was kind of wild. Everything was so clear, but it was more than that. I could literally tell how fast a car was going compared to me. It just popped into my mind with a glance. As I maneuvered through the city, I actually felt really comfortable behind the wheel. So much so that I was even driving a bit faster than normal. I suppose it was inevitable that I got an alert. Driving skill level up. I smiled, driving 4. I wonder what perk I would get next level. What's got you so happy? Nothing. Just enjoying my new optics. E's cute, you being all over the moon for some chrome. You used to be way worse before. Course you never had anything as high-end as Kiroshi. Oh? Was I big into chrome? Of course. Why do you think you got? Let's talk about something else. Think I got targeted by the scavs? I asked and Hiromi looked away from me instead of answering. We can drop it. I assure her, not bothered in the least. I wasn't exactly afraid of scavs. Not with how many of them I had already murdered. Good. So where are we going? She finally asked and I just shrugged. I'm honestly just driving around enjoying hanging out with my chum. I told her as I decided to slip onto the freeway towards home. You're such a gonk. I know you don't want to hit a party, so let's head back to your place. Food and a movie sounds good. Sure. That sounds fun. I can show you what I've been messing with in the last couple days. What? Well, I decided I wanted to try doing some tech stuff. I want to try making some gadgets for when I'm on a gig. Plus I want to be able to keep my guns ready to go. And maybe mod them out a bit. Huh? Playing techie, huh? Alright, cool. You will have to show me what you have so far. Not much. I hit the dump yesterday to find some stuff to take apart. You gross Motoko. If you want tech stuff, just hit up a shop or something. But it's cheaper to do it myself. But it's cheaper. She mocked back at me. Coming from the girl who just gave a ripper money when he was planning on chipping you for free. I owed Vic for his services. He is super talented. Okay, Motoko. Do you, like, have a crush on a guy or something? Is that your type? You know, old? Hiromi. I screeched, actually feeling my face flush. I do not have a crush on Vic. He's old. Yeah, I know, which is why I'm asking. Nope. We are done with this topic. We are driving home and watching a movie. I do not have a crush on a guy old enough to be my grandfather. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but he isn't young. PFFT. Oh man, I am going to tell everyone. She drawled it out slowly as she continued to tease. Don't make me kill you. They will never find the body. I glared at her, earning a smirk which slowly disappeared as I kept my unblinking stare on her as I drove. I had wider vision with my Kiroshi, so it was safe. Hiromi coughed a bit. All right, you win.